Hey everyone, hope you guys are enjoying Monster Hunter in whichever fashion you're choosing to play it as. And today I'm going to have a little bit of a discussion topic regarding what Capcom could potentially introduce as the next Monster Hunter games, Monster Hunter 6, Monster Hunter World 2, Monster Hunter Paradise, Monster Hunter Rise 2, whatever they end up calling it, naming conventions aside, what they would actually end up adding as a brand new game mode. Remember that Rise ended up trying to add a tower defense experience with the Rampage. It didn't necessarily land, which is why they ended up ditching it for Sunbreak. But it seems to me and a lot of people that Capcom is pretty much hell-bent on adding a brand new twist to the experience. And it would be to their benefit to add different game modes where they essentially provide hunters a different way to hunt. Not the traditional way, but something completely different because they can essentially bring in a brand new audience. I recently came across an article from GameRant. Going to be leaving a link in the description below for their latest article by Matt Caragolu. They did a fantastic job covering different Monster Hunter topics, and the more recent one mentions that one Destiny 2 mode could be the perfect inspiration for a Monster Hunter multiplayer experience, where they talk about essentially that the mode that I believe is called Gambit mode on Destiny 2 could be something that players might end up considering to be an exciting experience, as pretty much players are kind of hoping for things to be taken to the next level with the Monster Hunter franchise. Now, of course, as we continue to wait information regarding the official reveal for the next game, obviously nothing happened during Tokyo Game Show, but we do expect there to be a brand new game mode being added in there. And of course, it has to be multiplayer focused because the multiplayer functionality of Monster Hunter lends itself to something more interesting, which is why here the Game Rant article mentions that a PvE/PvE PvP mode similar to Destiny's Gambit could be the excellent addition. If you don't necessarily know, the Gambit style mode in Monster Hunter could involve two teams racing to hunt for the same monster while also hindering each other with different debuffs, resulting in one team claiming the spoils for the hunt, and it could be potentially a major highlight to the game's multiplayer experience. So not only is it a PvP pseudo type experience where you're not necessarily fighting other hunters, but you're fighting them in a race against time to be able to take down a specific monster, but then of course you get the better rewards. Probably not giving the other team rewards would be a little bit of too much of a harsh experience, but if two groups of hunters are fighting together for the same monster or a different set of monsters, but ultimately at the end of the day they're trying to do it as fast, one faster than the other, could go as a interesting twist to the already interesting Monster Hunter experience. In the article, they mentioned that after a month of speculation and potential leaks regarding the existence of a new Monster Hunter game, the Tokyo Game Show came and went without much of a mention of a Monster Hunter related, except for the new Niantic mobile game, which of course is available on your mobile stores right now with Monster Hunter Now. Still, one can assume that the new mainline entry for Monster Hunter franchise is currently in development, as the roadmap for updates for Monster Hunter Rise and Sunbreak expansion have reached their terminus. While there's plenty of speculation regarding what the next Monster Hunter might include, one crucial component for Capcom to nail down will be the multiplayer functionality. The Monster Hunter series is no strange to multiplayer modes, with cooperative play versus online multiplayer functionality being part of the series dating all the way back to the first entry. Still, the format that these multiplayer modes have taken over the years has shifted from entry to entry, with each game offering more than just a cooperative set of hunts for players to tackle with friends. While PvP isn't necessarily a great fit for the Monster Hunter franchise, hence why fans haven't necessarily seen since Monster Hunter 2, a PvE PvP mode similar to Destiny's 2 Gambit could be the excellent iteration on a tried and true multiplayer experience in the Monster Hunter series. They talk about how Gambit style mode could work in the next Monster Hunter. While the preferred competitive multiplayer experience in Destiny 2 is facing off against other Guardians in the Crucible, the Gambit mode introduces a part of Forsaken expansion, adds a unique wrinkle to the competitive play by changing the pure PvP experience into a PvE VP1, where there aren't many games attempting a PvE VP or player versus environment versus player. Those that do and are more typically MOBAs or MMORPGs, even though the concept hasn't found strong footing in Destiny 2, could still be a perfect fit for Monster Hunter franchise. Rather than two squads of hunters facing off against one in an arena setting, Monster Hunter's potential Gambit style could see two teams drop into opposite ends of the map. After the match begins, each team needs to race against the assigned location to hunt the same monster, where the ultimate goal is still to capture or kill one of the Monster Hunter's titular beasts, but players can also distract and hinder the other team's success to be the victor. The end result being that both teams are dealing damage to the same monster, but only one team walks away with the spoils of the hunt. And I do find that fascinating because I originally kind of thought that you would be kind of hunting two separate monsters, pretty much in a race time against, racing against the clock, if you will. But what they're suggesting here is actually more interesting, where you're actually fighting the same monster together and you're ultimately trying to be the one who KOs it first. Although I would imagine that another team would be able to kind of like poach off a kill. I remember seeing this a lot in like MOBAs with like the Pokemon mobile game or MOBA game, for example, where a lot of players, Pokemon Unite, where a lot of players would just kind of wait for that Zapdos or that Moltres or Kun or whatever that central monster is, that a Pokemon that is, appears in the map, and they just kind of wait to snipe it off real quick and kind of take the buffs for themselves. So obviously there has to be some sort of DPS or total damage inputted, parameter there to be able to be a little bit more fair than the other team. However, while it's still a good idea, it's not necessarily one that wouldn't be without some sort of downfall. In the article, they mentioned that Destiny's 2 woes with Gambit might not translate to Monster Hunter. They talk about it that in addition to the Gambit mode, to Bungie's live service Powerhouse was meant to add something that sat between the cooperative PvE play in missions and raids in the cooperative or competitive PvP matches in the Crucible. Unfortunately, a series of disappointing updates and changes to the mode have left fans convinced that Gambit is on its way out of Destiny 2, with Bungie choosing to focus on multiplayer resources elsewhere in the title. The mode may have ultimately been a flop in Destiny, but every possibility could bring a greater footing in Monster Hunter franchise. For starters, Monster Hunter is already built around using traps and other various forms of subterfuge to help debuff and eventually take down its giant monsters. It would be a natural fit for the game to introduce new traps or changes that in the effects for existing ones to combat, where in a PvEVP mode, they affect not only the monsters but other teams of hunters attempting to eliminate them. Further, in addition to such a mode, would potentially be the only type of competitive play available in the game, giving players greater incentive to engage with a rather than a view after an afterthought where they face each other. Better optimized modes, Regardless, the next Monster Hunter will be undoubtedly feature multiplayer functionality in a Gambit style mode. Seems like it would be an absolute blast to play, and I actually agree. Them adding some sort of pseudo PvP kind of like experience would be great. However, we all know that a heads-on PvP probably will never make its way into the game unless they actually add some sort of gacha type mechanics like we're expecting them to do with Monster Hunter now in some sort of format. There has been talk about leaks and rumors regarding a PvP making its way into Monster Hunter now at some point in the future, and I'm not necessarily sure how well that will go off, since you can actually abuse so much of that system by paying to be able to get faster rewards, not better rewards, but be able to get them faster. So I'm not necessarily sure how merited that would be. At the end of the day, though, some sort of new mode kind of needs to make its way into the next mainline game in the same way that the Rampage did and failed. But I don't think the Rampage failed because it was bad. It failed because a lot of players just didn't simply understand it all that well. Maybe it wasn't difficult enough. Maybe it was too eagerly complicated to begin with. Having to face down and put in turrets and traps and things of that nature was just too much for everyone, and they just kind of wanted to focus and be able to get the reward from the monsters. I will say this though, when it came to actual rewards and monster drops, the Rampage was pretty good in that regard. You were getting drops from all types of monsters, so in that setting I think it was pretty good. Also, a lot of people complain about the length of it, so that's something that maybe in this pseudo Gambit mode for Monster Hunter that Capcom could potentially reconsider. But that's definitely some food for thought there regarding a potential new mode making its way into the next mainline Monster Hunter game. I'm going to be leaving a link in the description below once again to the Game Rant article from Matt Carrogaloo regarding one of Destiny's 2 modes, making it a perfect inspiration for a Monster Hunter multiplayer experience. If you're brand new to my channel though, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, hit the bell to receive notifications when the videos go up, and as always, thank you so much for watching. See ya.